In this video, we will complete the CEA data entry sheet to compute the ICER. So before we get started, I like to view the CEA data entry sheet and the CEA plan sheet together. So there are a few different ways you can do this. One is if you go to File, Print, and you can either print the active sheet, or I'll show you how you can print the entire workbook. And so this is helpful just because you can print out all of the sheets of the workbook, and we've designed it so that all of the sheets print out in a nice, like user-friendly way. Printing out the sheets is going to be particularly useful, I think, for just the interpretation sheet in particular, because it outlines all of the different options that you need to consider for the ICER. So that's really helpful. But then as well, you can also print out your CEA plan sheet here. And like I said, it prints out in a nice way so that it's clean and easy to understand. So that's one way of viewing the two sheets together. The other way, and this is the way that I typically do it, is you can select view and then click on new window, and this will open up the document in two different windows. So I'm going to put one of the documents to the right and the other to the left. And so for this, I'm going to pull up the CEA plan on the left-hand side, and I'm going to make this pretty small. And really, this is really just for me to kind of reference things. If you can't read the fine, like the actual words on the page, that's okay. But you should be able to get a general idea of what I'm referring to. Okay, so for this tutorial, I'm going to use this advanced user section in cells. It looks like it's C30 through R38. But if using this section is at all confusing, then feel free to disregard it and just do whatever makes the most sense for you. So on the left-hand side here, we have the other relevant cost data. And so on our CEA plan on this screen over here, we thought through all the different costs. And so that's what we've written in the CEA data entry sheet on this right-hand side. And then we also have the other relevant health outcome data. And this is just the data that we pulled. So on the CEA plan sheet, if we scroll down in our case study, we had some values, and I can't read these values super well, but this table included a lot of the values, and then the research findings down here. So that's where these values came from. So I'm going to start by going through the different values, and what we're going to do is we're going to enter in the values these tables so that we can actually calculate the values. So I'm going to start down here in this health outcomes section. So the health outcomes we had said were PID cases. So in order to calculate that value, we take the cohort size and multiply that by the rate of PID due to untreated asymptomatic chlamydia. So that's those 10 cases. And then for the comparison cohort, the case study said that there were 22 cases is what they saw every year. So that's where that value came from. So now if we go back to the intervention cohort, the cost that we had decided that we're going to be a part of this case study was the chlamydia screening, chlamydia treatment, and PID treatment. So in order to calculate the cost of chlamydia screening, we took the cost of the chlamydia screening and multiplied that by the number of patients in the treatment group. And then for the chlamydia treatment, we took the cost of the chlamydia treatment per client, and then we multiplied that by the rate of asymptomatic chlamydia times the treatment group. And then PID treatment, we again took the cost of the PID treatment for each client and then multiplied that by the number of cases, PID cases that were seen in that year. And so then the total is automatically generated over here. For the comparison cohort, obviously there there is no chlamydia screening or chlamydia treatment, so that's why those values are 0. And then for the PID treatment, we took the number of PID cases and multiplied that by the cost of the PID treatment. And again, the total was automatically generated there. So then if we look down here in this incremental cost effectiveness ratio section, we can see that for the 1-year study period, we have the total costs are calculated here for the intervention and non-intervention group. And the same thing is done for the total health outcomes. The net cost and the net health outcome is created, or excuse me, is calculated here. The ICER for each study period is calculated in this section. And then the average ICER, which would take the average of all of the study period ICERs. And so you can see that we have this, the end result is this negative $729. So in order to interpret that value though, to understand what it actually means, we're going to go back to the interpretation section over here. And so I'm going to make this a little bit smaller. So on this sheet, as we discussed in a previous video, we need to consider the numerator, the denominator, and the outcome direction. So if we scroll down and use the table below, we can see that the numerator, we need to look at the type of sign that we have. And so if we look back on the CEA data entry sheet, we can see that the net cost was a positive $8,750. So I'm going to filter for the positive values. For the denominator, we can see that this was a negative 12. So I'll filter this table for negative values. And then the health outcome, if we go back to the CEA plan case study sheet, and if we look in section 2, item 6, where it says what were the measurable health outcomes, we had said that the objective was to minimize the health outcome, which makes sense because we want to minimize the number of PID cases. So we're going to look at this minimize section. And so what this says is, in this case, the ICER is negative since the numerator is positive and the denominator is negative. Our interpretation is, under the intervention, we spent more money and bad outcomes decreased. So this means that we spent more money and the number of PID cases went down. The ICER indicates how much more we had to spend to get one less unit of bad outcome. Or said another way, it's how much more we had to spend in order to get one less unit of PID cases. The intervention might or might not be cost effective depending on the purpose of the study. So if we look back to the CEA plan sheet here on this right-hand side, oh, sorry about that. On the right-hand side, if we scroll down to section 3, item 10, we had considered what the criteria we wanted to use for the cost effectiveness ratio. And we had said that the clinic could spend at most $800 to avoid one case of PID. So if we go back to the CEA data entry sheet, we can see that they're spending on average just shy of $730. So clearly this is less than that $800. So we conclude that not only is this intervention beneficial to the patients, it's feasible for the safety net clinic. So this concludes the tutorial for the CEA basic tool. I hope this was helpful and thank you for your attention. But if using this section is at all confusing, then feel free to disregard using this section and just do whatever makes the most sense to you. But if using this section is at all confusing, then feel free to disregard it and just do whatever makes the most sense for you.